All right, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly software workshop. We're going to give people just a second here to let the attendee list start to slow down, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So just give us 1 second. All right, everybody. Welcome to this week's weekly software workshop. My name is Mason Wells. I'm the manager of customer success here at eTruckBiz. These software workshops are super informal. So if you have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask that question as we're going throughout the software workshop. Today's topics are a monthly recap. So we're going to go over some of the things we went over this week. So for those of you who have been attending, if you had questions about any of the software we've gone over this week, now is your moment to shine to ask those questions. We're going to go over the calculators, the revenue and expense tool, timekeeping records, and give you a sneak peek of the all-new e-route that is now out there in the live in the stores. And then this next month or so, we're going to be doing a line haul blitz. Okay, so we're going to be doing, for those of you who have line haul or know contractors that are line haul, please let them know that next month we're going to go over all of our line haul utilization in the software. So that way it's, line haul specific for those who have been asking about it. Okay. And this is my contact information, just so you have it. If you need questions answered, have questions about software services, anything like that, okay? So with that in mind, we're gonna go ahead and start on utilizing the calculators. In the boss, when you log in, you're gonna have your menu down the left-hand side here. Obviously, it is a calculator, so that's kind of a giveaway. We're going to go to the calculators and, try to go through them a little quicker than I probably did a couple weeks ago. Each of these calculators gives you some type of an understanding of what their names are, okay? So the power of X is the power of how many stops your driver needs to perform more an hour to, like, if your driver were to perform X number of stops more per hour, what would that save you? What your weekly and annual savings would be by them doing just 1 extra stop or even just 2 extra stops per hour. The capacity calculator is a great calculator to calculate how the impact of adding stops without adding trucks. This is a great tool to use for the express volume that is coming in, okay? A lot of you have unused capacity on the trucks that exist in your operation, okay? So the capacity that is already existing is where you want to put that express volume instead of adding an extra truck to your operation when that does come your way. And this is a great tool to figure that out. Anytime you go into one of these calculators to use it, you want to make sure you check these inputs and that all of them are correct for your operation. You can adjust them if you get in here and click into them and adjust them, and it will make the calculator change, okay? Your revenue per dispatch calculator is a revenue per dispatch calculator. What it's going to do is it's going to tell you, okay, if your desired operating margin is 33%, then your inputs are here: average revenue per stop, total cost per dispatch. It's going to give you what your revenue per dispatch goal is and what your needed average stops per dispatch goal would be as well. So in this particular situation, you would have to, in order to reach $425.60 per dispatch in this operation, they would need to average 106 stops per dispatch. We've been talking about that a lot recently with the express volume and network 2.0 and being able to be profitable in this space at the moment, and knowing that number right there is one of the big ways of making sure that you are running profitably, is knowing on average how many stops you need to be putting on each truck every day. Okay, it's a great calculator to use for that as well. And then the golden rule is this has been taught by eTrip for a very long time. And it is the best way to run a profitable operation is to ensure that expenditures are within budgeted ranges. Okay. One of the main expenses you have is paying your drivers, so your wages. Even though there are various ways to pay your drivers, there's one rule that must be followed. The driver's wages must be no more than 45% of the revenue they generate. Okay, so that is the golden rule. This will help you calculate how many stops minimum, not maximum, minimum stops are needed to realize that wage budget. Okay, so if your drivers are hourly, say you pay them $20 an hour, your revenue per stop is $3.50, and you're planning for them to be on the road. And in this situation, if you want to see what, like, say you're doing this based off of what you're already currently doing, we're seeing a lot of people that their drivers are out 6 hours on the road. In this situation, in order to make it so that this particular driver is 45% or less of their wage is their revenue, they have to minimally be sent out with 76 stops. Okay. Anytime you see these instructions down here, you can unminimize, I guess is what you would say that term, and look at that. One other thing about the golden rule calculator, it says additional wages right here. If you're going to put a helper or a trainee on the truck, and a lot of people will put a helper or a trainee on the truck and leave the truck as is. Okay, so say you sent the truck out with 76 stops because that's what you know this driver needs to be sent out with to make their wages plus the rest of the 55% of the revenue that you need for that truck. Okay, so you put a helper on there, but you leave it at 76. That's not a good way to do that. Okay, so if you do this, if we click yes, that we're going to put a helper or a trainee, that they're hourly. Let's say we're putting them at 15 because they're new, and they're also going to be out there for 6 hours. See how that went up from 76 to 133? You also have to account for that extra body, that extra wage being on the truck. So when you do that, you have to make sure that you increase the stops on the truck to account for the extra person as well. Okay. This is a great calculator to see that, to visually see what you need to do. And this right here is a big deal, these planned on duty hours. FedEx assumes in your contract that you are at 8.33 on-road hours. So when you move this out here, this is you start to see this go up too because these are hourly wages. Okay, you start to see that these definitely need to go up, and especially if this person is at 181. As you increase the amount of time they're going to be out there because they're hourly, they have to be doing more stops. Okay. Any questions about the golden rule calculator or any of these other calculators? And if you'd like to see any specific numbers to be put in here, these are available to you in the boss system under calculators, so you can start putting in your own data, your own information in there to kind of get a good visual for each of your operations. Any questions, comments, concerns, additions from Ken or anybody? Okay. If you do have questions about the calculators, please don't hesitate to ask, okay? Because we like questions. The next part of our monthly recap is the revenue and expenses tool. So for those of you who are interested in that, if we go to our financials area here, there are a couple of things in here, but the one we're going to look for is this financial management tool, okay? What this is going to do is it's going to pull in your overall stops for April, because that was last month. We're getting close to being to out of May, but here's April, and it's going to pull in your FXG revenue because we know what that was. We do pull in your settlements, okay? If you have additional revenue, you can add that here. Most people do not, but you may have some you want to put in there. What this does is everybody should have, I should say, should have a profit and loss statement. Now, some people get them monthly, some people get them quarterly, some people get them at the end of the year. But this tool is to help you see things before they become bigger problems, is a good way to describe it. It's a great tool to everybody's margins are shrinking, everybody's trying to figure out where all the money is going, and you're trying to find the holes in the bucket. This tells you where the holes are in the bucket so you can plug them, okay? And just because everybody has P&Ls from their financial person does not necessarily mean all P&Ls are created equal, okay? Each of your guys' financial people are going to categorize things differently. They have their own schemes of how they put things into their own buckets, things like that. This system, this financial management system, helps you put your expenses into places that make sense for your guys' operations, okay? Because you all spend money on pretty much the same things, okay? You all have wages, you all have fuel, you all have maintenance. This area for operating expenses is the money you have to spend to make money. So any money that you're spending to make a dollar, okay? So your wages, these are going to be your drivers, okay? Gross driver wages, employer payroll taxes. That's where you're going to put your payroll taxes, you're going to put in your wages. Now, you can put them in weekly. You can click here and add another one for another week, or you can put them in monthly. It is totally up to you how you'd like to do that, okay? As you start to put this stuff in, you start to see how much per stop you're spending on these particular wages and how much of that is of your revenue. Like we said before with the golden rule, we want to stay at 43% or lower, but not 43, 45, but 45% or lower is also including these payroll taxes. So you start to add these together and you're at 48. So you're a little bit above what the assumption should be. Okay. So just so you do know that 45% does include the payroll taxes, not just the gross wages. Fuel and oil, this is where you put in how much your fuel is costing you. This is a great way to figure out, especially for your negotiations, how much you're spending on each one of these things throughout month to month, year to year. Figure out how much you're spending on those things, especially when it comes to negotiation time, as Miss Carrie can attest to. Maintenance, repairs and maintenance, any towing. Anytime you see a little information icon, you can click on those and it kind of gives you an idea of what we're thinking should go in those buckets, okay? Other, so uniforms, license and permits, you have to have these things in order to make money, in order for the trucks to go out on the road, okay? G&A is general and administrative. This is the money that you have to spend that unfortunately makes you no money, okay? Administrative services, so bank service charges, office supplies, if you rent a building, any of these things would go in this category. Professional fees and subscriptions, this is where we would go. Okay. Recruiting expenses, this is where your management and your wages would go, okay? If your manager gets into a truck, because you had this question, if your manager gets into a truck and delivers packages regularly, you want to put them into the operating expenses. If it's every now and then, you want to put them in G&A. They should not technically be generating revenue and getting in that truck, but if they're doing it regularly, you want to put them in the operating expenses. If not, they go in G&A. And then there is a miscellaneous area where you can put in your meals, travel. There's some other ideas in there. But as you start building that out, as you start putting that information in, you're going to start seeing the amount show up, the amount per stop, and the percent of revenue. And for each one of these, we call them buckets, you're going to see how much each one of those is costing you or has cost you, okay? And then if you go to summary, it's going to kind of pull it all together for you. So it's going to pull together the amounts, the percentages, how much per stop, and it's going to tell you how much you're netting. Are you above? Are you below your overall your income and how much you've spent? Okay, and obviously we haven't put all this in here, so we don't, currently we're looking at a high net income, but this is what the summary would look like. And any files you want to add, if you want to add receipts, an actual P&L, so say you have a P&L from your accountant that you want to put in here and file it in here, you can do that. That's where you would put those. And if you go over here and you click view report, it's going to pull out this nice, neat report here for you. It's going to have your company's name. It's going to be in a PDF form. And it's going to, again, show you that summary, have everything pulled out, and then it also will do this for you. So it pulls everything out that you put in. So if you notice, this one was a write-in. We typed this one in. It gives you everything itemized, okay? Whereas the summary kind of puts them in the buckets and adds them up. This gives you the breakdown, okay? Any questions about the profit and loss tool, the financial management tool? Quiet group today. All right, timekeeper. One of the biggest things that's going on right now. There are a lot of audits going on with payroll and timekeeping. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. If you go to employees and you go to the timekeeper, this is where you are going to address your timekeeping records. Your drivers can clock in and out on the P&D driver app, which I'm going to show next. This particular system will show you today's clock-ins when you first get in here, okay? So it's going to default to showing you today. This person's already clocked out. So there's that. If you click on it, it tells you where they clocked in and where they clocked out. So they did clock in and clock out at the same location, okay? If they don't have their location services turned on, this will be blue. It'll be bright blue, and it will say that it does not have any information. What that means is your driver, when they downloaded the P&D driver app, it asks them if you would like to allow the app to have access to their location. And in most phones, you can say yes all the time, or only while using, or no, not at all. We like to tell them that they can use it only when using, okay? Some drivers don't like the concept of it having their access to their location, but if they do the only while using, then they'll be fine. We only need it when they're using it, okay? They can put in the unit number. That is something that is super important for if you have any L10 vehicles, being able to determine what truck that person was in, because if they are day pay and they get into a vehicle under 10,000 pounds, they are eligible that week for overtime. And then also it shows you any notes. So if the driver had a note they put in there, like they forgot to clock in and they actually clocked in at this time, it would show up in there. What's great about the timekeeper is you can filter through it, okay? So if you're going to do your payroll, for instance, and you want to look at last week, you want to look at all the drivers, and you want to just filter that out. You can look at it by last week, and this is going to use the FedEx work week, so it is going to be from Saturday to Friday. And you can go through and adjust for just the week that you're needing to run your payroll. And you can also view this report different ways. You can use it by day. Most people don't use the by day. A lot of people use the time logs by driver. What the time logs by driver is going to do is it's going to give you a printout of each driver's timekeeping records for that week, if they had any notes, and what their total hours were for the week. So that is really beneficial for those of you who are using this for timekeeping records purposes. Timekeeping is one of those things that a lot of people either love it or hate it, okay? In your guys' contract, it does state that you have to have a timekeep and a independent timekeeping system from the FedEx system. So if you are using the WSW to figure out your driver's time, we have had a lot of people that have failed audits because of that. We actually just recently had someone that failed an audit because they did that. You have to keep a timekeeping system that is separate from the WSW and the scanners, okay? Even if they are day pay, regardless of whether or not how they are getting paid, they have to clock in and clock out. And it is very easy to do in the driver app. If you wanted to filter and just see one driver, you can do that. So say you are wanting to, let me find somebody that I know So if you want to filter and just see one driver for last week, you can see all their information. You can get in here and edit the timekeeping record. This happens often if somebody forgot to clock out, or they put in a note that says, I forgot to clock out at this time, I was supposed to be at this time. You would want to make sure you make a note of why you changed it, because that'll show up in there. But you could put the note in there, click update, and it would show up in here under admin notes, okay? You can also export this as a CSV, just so you know, when you are clicking like export CSV and view report, it's going to view whatever it's going to pull out whatever you're looking at here, okay? So that's kind of the way that this works. If you're looking at last week at everybody and you pull this report or pull the CSV, it's going to pull all of this information. So if you're wanting to pull out something specific, you want to pull it out, you want to filter first and then pull the CSV or view the report, okay? You can also add a clock in. This is also beneficial if you need someone forgot to clock in for whatever reason. You want to make sure you make a note about why you put the clock in there. Most of the time, the status is clocked out because it's already past time for them to be clocked in or out. So make sure that everything is filled out in here, employee, clock in, clock out, and the times, okay? Any questions about the timekeeper? Its importance, anything of that nature? The last thing we're going to bring up today is the T&D driver app. So let me go ahead and pull it up here on my phone. I like to pull it up on my phone because most drivers are going to put it on their phone. It can be pulled up on a tablet, so it can be pulled up on an iPhone. It can be pulled up on an iPhone. It can be pulled up on a iPad, Android, all of those. So it's available on Apple and Android tablets and phones. There we go. Looking for the right username and everything to log in. So let me go ahead and share my phone. He's actually cooperating with me today. That's unusual. All right. So here's the T&D driver app. You want to make sure that your drivers are using or have downloaded the newest version. It is this 1.6.0 because that's going to have the new e-route in it. Okay. And then password. All right, so we're going to go ahead and log in. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull up and it's going to, you can't see it, but it asks me for my location services. It's going to look like this. So this is the new P&D driver app. It was released yesterday. Some of your drivers might have already had it update on their app, on their phone, if they have auto update already set on their phone. So they probably already have it, but if they don't, you want to make sure that they do have that new version. they'll know if they have the new version when they get in there because it looks completely different than the old one. So easy, this is an easy update as far as understanding, making sure you have the correct one now. There are a couple of new things in here. There's now a to-do list. So this is great for making sure your drivers are getting, clocking in, clocking out, completing those pre-trip inspections and post-trip inspections. If they click on it, if they click clock in, it's going to take them to the timekeeper. So like what we were just talking about with them clocking in and you editing their timekeeping records, this is where they would clock in, okay? And they can go down here and click the timesheet, and they can look at their past history of clocking in and clocking out. So if they go back to the dashboard, I didn't clock in for him, so it won't show in here. But they can also complete their weekly safety focus lesson. So if they click on that, it's going to take them to that lesson. It just makes it a little bit easier for the driver to be able to complete things that they need, that are on their list of to-dos that they need to complete, okay? They can minimize it too. So if we go up here and click this, they can minimize it to get it out of their way. But here is e-route, okay? And if you notice too, nothing is in this down here until they choose their route, okay? So we are going to go ahead and pick one that is active. This particular contractor does not limit his drivers to only be able to see their route that they're logged into on their scanner. You can do that in the system, but this particular contractor does not. We're going to click Get Stops. It's going to pull the manifest and all the information about the route from the FedEx API. And this is what all new e-route looks like, okay? So it's got a whole new map. It's a lot larger than it used to be. All the pins have changed. If you see that it's got a couple of different colors here. So these grayed pins are already completed stops. The red ones are needing to be completed, and the orange ones are time definite. This particular contractor does have time definite stops, okay? They've had them since about October of last year, so there's a good person to show because it is ready for time definites when you do get them, okay? A couple of things, if you go up here into the layers button, it's going to open up and you're going to be able to turn off things like the completed stops and things of that nature. You can basically turn all the pins off or all the pins on. It's up to you. They can look at a different map view. The Apple version, the traffic one, does not work just yet, but it does work on Android. You can look at the satellite view, though. I like the satellite view personally because they can actually see the roads and the houses. You can show a legend, which I really like. So this is really nice if you are new to eRoute or you're new to the delivering game and you want to be able to know what each pin on the map does mean. Okay, so it gives you an idea of what everything on the map means. It can be turned on and off though. So what's really nice about that is they can turn the legend off if they already know how the app works and how everything on the map, what everything on the map means. So that's really beneficial too. Go ahead and turn it off. And if they need to, they can reset their time zone in here as well for whatever reason, if they're switching time zones in their delivery area, okay? They can also see their stats. Excuse me. If you click on stats, it's going to show them their on-road hours, their estimated last stop. So if they can continue completing their stops with this stops per on-road hour, their last stop of the day is going to be 5:52 p.m. This is when it was last updated. And this is a good view of their completion. So here's their delivery. They're 74% on their time definites and 83% on their pickups. All right. So there's a couple of ways that your drivers can utilize this app. They can look at the map view and they can click on one of the stops and it's going to show the stop information. So it's going to tell them the delivery number, the SID. It's going to tell them what this particular stop is a time definite, so it's going to tell them what that time is, and any stop notes that they have in there, okay? They can also look at the stop via P&D stops or PD stops. So if you notice, we do have the completed stops are here listed, and that is because we did not turn off the completed stops. If we turned off the completed stops up here, it's going to only show us the stops that are due to still be completed. Okay, so they can turn those off if they don't want to see things they've already completed. We're going to turn it back on just for the heck of it. This is going to show all of their stops, pickups, deliveries, time definites. It's going to show all of them in this list. If they wanted to see their time definite list, they click on TD stops down here at the bottom. It's going to tell them how many they have upcoming. And it's going to look like this. So we have the completed stops in here, and it's going to show you by stop number. So if you notice, this first one says stop number 5, and in parentheses it says 10. This means that the driver's completed this particular stop 10th at 9:19 Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Same for this one. It was also supposed to be stop number 5. They completed it 9th. This one was supposed to be stop 12, and they did it stop 35. Okay, and anytime, the reason I like to keep the delivered stops on sometimes when I'm looking is because sometimes you may see, I don't know if he's got any that were late today, but sometimes you'll see right next to the parentheses that it'll say, right here it'll say late. And that means that that particular time definite stop was completed late. Okay, we don't like to see those at all, but sometimes they do happen. And you can toggle this little toggle here to go over to make the list ordered in time as well. So these are all stops. He didn't have any 10:30s today. He just had some 12s. All are done. If we go down, I don't see any that were late, so that's good. I was on here the other day, and they did have a 12 o'clock that was late and still had not been completed. So that is getting better. But if we go all the way down, you're going to start seeing the stops that are not completed yet. Okay, it'll tell you what the time is that it needs to be completed by, with what its SID is, and any of the information you need to know. Okay. Something that is really nice, they can also click on that stop here in the list, and it'll pop up here for them. And they can also remove that list on the left-hand side by clicking that time definite stop tag down here again. But something else that's super new that we really like about the driver app is it now has this add note. Okay. We now have the ability for the drivers to add stop notes to the particular stop that they've got going on. So it automatically pulls in the information that we already know. We already know how to identify the stop, the address, the lat and longitude that FedEx gave us. This is really great if your driver gets to the particular stop and they say, this stop is not on the map where it's supposed to be. If they're in the location where the stop is supposed to be, they can open the stop up, they can click geocode, and it will plot the stop in the correct space, the correct location. And when they click save and close, it will save that and it'll have it for the next time. Okay, so it will fix that misplotted stop. If they need to put a note in that says, watch out for vicious dog, they can put that in here, they can flag it as important, and they can take a picture of said vicious dog. All of those things are now available for your drivers to put in here for a stop note. I'm going to close this out. And if there was a stop note for this particular stop, it's going to show up here. They do not have to click add note to see it. They can, but it's going to show up here if there is one. What's really great about that is, say there's a gate code, or there's they don't want the packages delivered to the door on the left, they want them delivered to the door on the right. It's going to show up here for this particular driver without them having to get into the notes. Okay. And even if they minimize this whole area down here, they click this arrow, it's still going to show them the note. Okay. They may not need to know all the information on the bottom. They may be a veteran driver and they don't need to see all of that information, but it still does give them the notes that another driver did put in there. So if they get in there and they're on a different route, or that particular stop got put on a different route for that day, any of these notes are available to the driver who is going to be doing that stop next. So if that stop is on their manifest, the notes are going to show up there for them. Okay. If you click navigate, it will take you out to Google Maps. If you click track, it's going to pull up the tracking information. So this is kind of nice. This is also in the Optics app. For you guys who are watching the operation itself, you can see the progression in the FedEx system. This is also really great for deliveries that are already completed, especially in the Optics app, if you're wanting to go through and audit these pictures, okay? Because FedEx is starting to do that. They're starting to go through and randomly take pictures, okay? You can go through and see and make sure that driver did indeed put a picture where they were supposed to, okay? And they can also now see it too in their app. Any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions that you'd like to see added to the driver app? And remember, you can unmute yourself and ask questions if you have them. If not, I'll keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A, so don't feel like you don't have to ask a question. Any feedback? This is a new app, a new version, so if you have any feedback for us, as far as like you'd like to see something different, please let us know, because everything that's been changed in here has been changed from your guys' feedback, okay? So we are not averse to getting feedback.
Hey, Mason, it's Bob.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing too that I really like about it is the voice. You know, when you pull up to a stop or you click on a stop that you're going to, it'll tell you this. I believe it tells you the SID number and the address, and then how many packages.
Mm-hmm.
That's
in here under settings. You want to turn on enable voice alerts. So that, like what Bob's talking about, is if you've got this toggled on, you pull up to a stop and it's going to tell you the SID. It's going to call it out to you. So it's going to, if you've got the volume up, it's going to call that out to you. Anything else, Bob?
Just the photos. You know, if you've got a tough spot, whether it be a hospital or an army barracks or somewhere off the beaten path, and you've got to deliver it to the building in the far back, you know, now you can plot that, and then you can take a picture of where you're at. And that will just help that, especially for those that, you know, you've got business routes and you got residential routes, and you're afraid to put new people on business routes because it's so hard. This will help speed up that learning curve for sure.
Mall routes would be a good one because you got limited parking areas. You could probably list in there, you know, with notes where you know which door to park on each one of those. So I think that'd be a great place, as especially during peak season. Chances are early on you're going to add helpers into some of those bulk routes, and all of a sudden now they can become efficient right away.
I have a question about the voice feature. If you're wearing earbuds or an earbud, let's say AirPod, will it call it out through the phone? Is that how it operates?
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. If it is connected to your phone, and your phone, because your phone is what would be calling it out, yes, it would come out into your AirPod. A lot of us do it. I'm currently doing it, wearing one AirPod. Yes, it would call it out into your AirPod.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, suggestions, feedback on the new UI here?
Mason, am I coming through?
Yes, you are.
Hey, I have a question. You said this is the phone view. If you did the tablet view, is it just a larger, or is the user interface different on a tablet than it is on the phone?
So the tablet version is the exact same. It's just it's bigger. So we've had a lot of people. So my phone is an iPhone 14 Pro Max, so it's one of the bigger ones. Because I like to be able to see everything on my phone. I'm one of those weirdos likes a big phone. But the one of the things that someone had mentioned was that the P&D stops, like this information that's over here, does look kind of small. The only thing that the tablet version does help with is that it makes it bigger so people are able to see it. It's the same UI, it's the same, everything is exactly the same in it. It's just, it makes it easier to see, and especially when the drivers are driving around and they're, in these big trucks, and it's usually the tablet is mounted. It's just so much easier for them to see with it sitting right there, and it's on a bigger screen. So that's the only difference, is it's just bigger. The UI is exactly the same.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up on that? Can they be logged into more than one
Absolutely.
device? Can they be logged into like their tablet that mounted in the truck and their phone also? So if they like walk up and they wanted to look at something, they can look on their phone, or can they only be logged into one device?
They can be logged into multiple. So they can be logged into a phone, into the tablet. You can be logged in as them. They can be logged in multiple different places. So yeah, if they've got it on their phone, and they pull it out of their pocket real quick while they're in front of the door, and they've got the note right there, they want to add the note, they can absolutely do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The reason that they can do that is because all of the information that's coming into this app is coming from the FedEx API. So as like some of our other, like the other routing softwares, they disconnect the manifest from the FedEx API, and the driver has to go in and complete the stop manually in the app for it to show up on your end that it's complete. In our situation, all of these completed stops that are over here came from the scanner. So if they scan it on their scanner as completed, it's going to show up in here as completed. Okay. So in like your situation you were talking about, if the driver has it pulled up on their tablet and it's mounted and it's stuck where it's stuck, but they pull out their phone because they're somewhere else and they want to add a note or something like that, as long as they've got them both auto refreshing, they'll both stay up to date. One of the ways that you can do that is they can go in here and they can click refresh. Okay, so there is a button that says refresh. It will pull in all the new scans from FedEx. It'll tell you, what they've got completed. It does let you auto do that as well. So if you go into settings, there is a automatically refreshed data toggle here, and you can tell how often you want it to be auto refreshed. A lot of people will put it at 15 minutes. And that's just for, say that driver sat their tablet or sat their phone down, and they know their their next 5-10 stops, and 16, 17 minutes later they get onto their phone or their tablet to look at the app again. It's going to have it refreshed, okay? Because every 15 minutes it's going to be refreshing itself. Now, if it's auto refreshing, are they going to want their phone or their tablet plugged in so it's not dying? Absolutely. But it's a little bit more simple. They don't have to constantly keep refreshing it to see stuff getting completed, especially if they're not getting there all the time. The e-route is really great for not only new drivers, but also veteran drivers that might be in a different route or a different area. It's great for both because it can be utilized in multiple different ways. If you're brand new and you want to know exactly where you need to go right this minute, turn by turn, they can click next stop and it takes them directly to the next stop and they just complete their route. If they're a veteran driver and they just want to see, 16 minutes later, they want to go in here and just see one stop, they can do that. So it's a very universal tool for many different levels of driver ability to use.
Can I add to that, Mason?
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure. Yeah, you just definitely want to make sure that the auto refresh is on if they're not getting into it all the time. Go ahead, Ken.
For the veteran drivers, especially if you're using dynamic anchors, they might get a new subdivision, so that once again, this will help them and pull it up. And they might only use it just for that new subdivision, but it's all there for them right there. And the other thing for all drivers is when the time definites come in, just being able to sort your stops, just your time definites, and be able to show your 10:30s, your noons, just so you can prioritize those. So definitely for all skill levels.
Any other questions about the UI? If some things in here that you guys are asking for that I might not have mentioned. Like I said, your drivers can get this app right now. This is not a test version anymore. I know for a couple weeks there I was showing the test version. This is out there live, available Android and Apple tablets, phones, and otherwise. So your drivers can be using it as soon as today. And that's another thing is if you have not been using the apps like this, if you have not been using the routing or the optics app, you do want to make sure that we are one of your data providers in the FCC. Because if you go in there and try to access the optics app, or if your driver tries to use eRoute, they're going to get a notification that says, we are not one of your data providers. So you'll just want to make sure that's turned on, but once that's turned on, you have access to this. And like I said, if you're getting in here, can switch around between different routes. So look at a different one. So it's gonna zoom out now because this route's pretty not much done. We've got a couple of ones to finish and a couple of pickups. It doesn't look like they had any time definites. There you go. Any other questions?
Is there a manager view, like a manager login that is a separate view or like an overview?
That best
Yeah,
place
so the
to do that
manager,
would be the
that is
optic.
the optics app. Yeah.
Do you have
Okay,
yours
copy that.
pulled up?
Yeah, I can pull it up. I'll show you. So the optics app is this one. Okay, it's this red E. It says optics. Go ahead and log in here. I wanted to say EM. It's MRM.
Typing like me today.
I know. Usually I'm just super fast with my fingers, but today I'm honing my pen. So this is the manager view, okay? So they would log into the optics app. You or your manager would log into the optics app, and it's going to retrieve all of your routes. It's going to pull everything, whereas the driver app only pulls the route that they ask for. This is going to pull all of your routes. And as you see right here, it says retrieving data. This particular contractor has some extra routes sitting in his
About
FCC
60 of them.
that aren't being used. Yeah, the more of those you have in there, the longer this takes, because as we all know, anything data-wise that is connected to FedEx can take a minute.
Good thing is we don't charge you for any
to-
of those work areas, so that's even better.
Yeah, that's something that's nice. We don't charge you by work area, so you can put as many of them in there as you want. So it's still retrieving this one. I love showing his stuff because he's got Express, but whew, it will default to this preload screen. What's really great about this tool is if you get in here in the morning as the preload's happening, you can watch the preload happen on here. So you can watch as stuff's getting put on those trucks. But in terms of, John, what you were asking about as far as being able to see like a manager view of all of the routes, this tool is really great for replacing sitting there and constantly refreshing your DSW. We've had a lot of people, over the years that would sit there and constantly refresh that DSW. This will replace that. So now that the preload's over, it's going to take you over to on-road, And this is the manager view for all of the routes. Okay, so it's going to show you each work area and how far along they are as of this moment. Okay, and as I said, everything's pulling from the scanner, so this is the most recent, most active, most real data you can get. It's going to show you their completion as far as delivery stops, how many of their time definites they have done, and their pickups. Okay, and it's going to show you on-road hours, what their stops per on-road hour currently are, what unit they're in, all of that good stuff. See if we can. So if you see here, this one's got like a little red bar here. That means they're still running. You see this gray one here. This means this driver is done, and it says EOD. So that means that it's the end of day. That driver is completely done with that route. Obviously, they were done very quickly.
Hey, Mason, just a preload question. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know you went
Yeah,
past
no,
it.
you're good.
So on the preload, am I right? That's sort of a living, breathing deal that as they scan, it loads. It's not taking from the. In other words, until they're done, we don't really know what we're getting. I don't know if our terminal's any better or worse, but we see pretty big vagaries between what we think is coming the night before and what we get. I mean, hundreds of stops difference.
Yeah,
And,
it's
go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
yeah, it comes from so once the loader scans it, and Andy, in your situation, once they scan it to a cart, it'll be there. So you can kind of see how many routes you have built. So that and then so you can kind of
Got it.
I know I'm expecting 1,500 stops, and I've got 10 routes built. I know I'm going to dispatch at 150, but you can see it build, and if it's 6 o'clock and you already have 1,500 stops, guess what? You better make a move. Because
Right.
you're gonna,
That's kind of what, and it's 15-minute intervals if that's the setting, right? Or whatever the setting is, as far as the update. Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
and can you go to the summary, hit the summary button on this?
Right down here.
Yep. So yeah, now here, once again, you get a summary of seeing what you've got on the road. So this person they already got 2 routes that are done. Then you got your 77.9 or 78% complete of their stops, but you also get your time definite overview here. And it's kind of interesting. He only had 10 1030s today. Reason being that due to the holiday on Monday, the 1030s have an extra hour and a half for some reason. Which one of the customers knew that, one of the customers did not know it. So, but yeah, so that's why that's so low. But you can say, and then you can see he's already, by 8 p.m. he's got 401 between the 2 CSAs. And if you have multiple CSAs, you can split this by CSA as well. Do you see how this is pretty valuable for your manager overview? And then I could see here that this CSA dispatch had 118 stops per driver day today, which is good. Considering last Thursday he did 112, but once again, he knew he was only going to have very limited 1030s, so I would have really pushed it hard today. Yeah, and a lot of times you might have to run an extra truck or an extra dispatch to handle those 1030s. And in this case, these guys get out at 9:15 or 9:30, so they are pushed, but not 6 amongst 13 drivers, less than 2 per truck. So
It's really
Is
nice.
that
Do
kind
you have a spot that shows like coded packages, the codes that your drivers have applied?
the
Yeah.
exceptions,
So if you,
Yep.
yep. So if this were on a bigger screen, because again, if you put this on a tablet, see how this one has an exception. If we tap on it, it's going to tell you right here what that exception was. O2, and it's going to tell you, if you click on it, you can click get tracking info.
The ones we track are the ones that count against your service. So an 02, an 04, a 27. Okay.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
this
you can
guy,
see those.
Annie's was a bad address at a mall. Okay.
All right.
Nobody's getting any pretzels today.
They're the best. If we go to another one, so I think you have two. So there's this one that has some exceptions too. So on the map itself, the white pin is going to be your exception pin, okay? And if you click on the exceptions, it'll tell you that's an 04. Oscar's Appliance. And it tells you the stop time. So this is the time that they scanned the 04. 13:10.
FedEx tracking system doesn't seem to be working on exceptions.
Apparently not. Maybe they just don't want to think the exceptions exist. They don't want to say it. They just don't want to see it. And again, they do have some time definite, but I don't think many of them were 10:30s. Let's see. But yeah, it'll show you, this is essentially the driver view. So what we were showing in the driver app where you can see the driver view and you see all this information in here, it's essentially the driver view. Just you're seeing things as a manager. So you're in here, to see their stats. You can see what their stats are on there, on each driver, but you don't have to go out of each route to see it. You can see it all in one spot.
Also down on that summary, hit the summary and then scroll down. You can see your estimated revenue and then what your labor is as a percentage of revenue.
And if you click on it, you can see what each driver is projected revenue is for the day as well. Any other questions? Go to performance and it'll show
Appreciate
you
you asking about this app because this we think this is an incredibly powerful app. There's nobody else in the industry that's going to allow your manager to check the time definites by the time. Go hit the time commitments there, Mason, and then hit the 10:30s. So that's what he's just got left right now. But yep, and hit the show that, toggle that, and then then show your 10:30s. So you could see he was 6 for 6 on time. And so if you wanted a hot list, if it was 11:30 and you want to see how many you had left at noon, you could just look at what hasn't been delivered on your noons as well. So I think it's great. So do the toggle back and then see if he's got any 1700s still due. Okay, and then hit the toggle if I just wanted to see the 3. So there you go. So I know I've got these left. And this is something you should do definitely at between 10 and 10:30 and then 11:30 to noon. Once again, nobody else is offering this and nobody's tying it to your revenue as well. So the management tool in your BCs or the owner's pocket is extremely powerful. I'll quit interrupting.
Any other questions? No, you're good.
Mason, can you go back to the driver exceptions for the day?
Huh?
And could I pull up by route and see each driver's exceptions or pull up a master list for the whole day? Have you guys updated that feature at all?
So I don't believe that there's a list of just exceptions still. This app has not been updated. I think this one's getting the next update.
Correct.
So I believe that is coming. The list of like exceptions for everybody, not just.
So if we have a driver that has several exceptions, what's the most efficient way to view those?
So you would go to his route, drill down on the exceptions on that route, and then you would get his entire list.
Yeah,
Correct.
so my suggestion here would I'd go to performance because it's a little bit easier to see. You can see right here how many there are. There are only 2. And I would scroll down through here. You're going to start seeing orange. So you'd see orange right here. You'd click on this guy and go to his exceptions.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the same thing with the other ones. You can scroll down through here and very quickly see the orange. And go to the other one.
I don't know about my
So we get
counterparts,
that
but
whole list.
being able to see a list quickly to just dial in on what the codes are for the whole group is to know whether I need to go and bird dog specific routes is helpful.
Maybe. Yeah, I think we can do that off of this menu here, and I think that is in the next update.
Future updates, maybe just an idea.
Yeah, we geared a lot of the time into getting the e-route where we want it and where we have it now, and then now it's time to go back to this baby.
But absolutely, very similar to these time commits, being able to go in and see all the exceptions and address them as needed. I mean, yes, it's important to see them, in here, who's got them and all that. And the same thing within here, you can see their estimated last stop in here as well, just like the driver can. But yeah, it's just as important as seeing it in here. A list view is definitely important, so we'll get it in there.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I know coding and exception packages are incredibly variable from terminal to terminal, the way they run them. But like, our terminal has, if it's a problem delivery, they have one specific code they want us to use. And then our manager has to like basically explain the use of each of those codes so they don't get converted to 27s. And I know that that's variable from terminal to terminal, but something like that tool would be very useful to keep track of those and to be on the front edge of getting those corrected.
Okay, yeah, we'll put that on the list. It's going on the list. Any other suggestions?
And this is all a part of the Express Pro package?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep. Unlimited number of trucks, all this software for $395 per month. And any additional CSAs with unlimited trucks there would be an additional $100. So incredible value.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, suggestions? All right, well, if I don't have any other questions or suggestions, we will put you back over here. And you guys can let me know if you have anything else. This is my contact information. So if you have any other questions, comments, suggestions about any of the software, any of the services, anything we saw today, anything we didn't see today, please feel free to reach out to me. And if we don't see you before the end of the week, have a great rest of your week and an awesome weekend. Thanks everybody for attending.